Good evening, this is Mr. Wintermelon. So in the previous video, we have learned how does the plant makes its own food, which is through photosynthesis. In this video, you're going to learn more about the organs which the plant uses to make its own food. So you are going to learn about the structure of the leaf as well as how various parts of the leaf is adapted to the function. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify and label the cellular as well as the tissue structure of a dicotyledonous leaf. Now, you might seen this word dicotyledonous in your O-level paper. Then you might be, what the hell? Have I seen this word before? To be honest, it doesn't matter. It is just a leaf. So whatever leaf that you will see in your O-level paper, it is just the leaf that you have or you will be studying. So don't worry about the word. It is just there for technical reason. So if you see the word dicotyledons, you can just skip and just answer the question as per normal, as how you will answer if you see a question about leaf in your mid-year or prelim paper. So besides being able to identify and label the structure, you should also be able to describe the significance of this feature in terms of distribution of chloroplasts. That means you should be able to identify which part of the leaf have chloroplasts and which part is the stomata as well as mesophyll cells, why they are important for gas exchange, as well as the vascular bundle. But this vascular bundle is more for the next chapter. Basically, this vascular bundle is a fancy way of saying your xylem as well as your phloem. Now let us take a look first at the external structure of a leaf. So the distinct part that you will be able to notice is the middle part, which is the midrib, which is basically the vascular bundle. As mentioned, it is the xylem and the phloem. The leaf lamina is large and flat. Most of the leaf you see around are really flat because this will enable them to absorb maximum amount of light because of surface area. It is flat, which causes it to be thin, and this will enable rapid diffusion of carbon dioxide to reach the part of the leaf responsible for photosynthesis. If it's very thick, it will take a long time for carbon dioxide to diffuse to the cell that contains the chloroplast. So if we enlarge the leaf, you can see a network of veins. They are also vascular bundle, so they will help to transport water as well as mineral salt and food to other parts of the plant. The petiole will hold the leaf away from the stem and try to block other leaves as little as possible so that the plant can absorb as much sunlight as possible. Next, for the more important part, which is the internal structure of a leaf. The internal structure of the leaf can be divided into 5 regions. The last region is the vascular bundle. I will just tell you offhand, which is more for next chapter. And to be honest, we normally just classify them into 4 plus 1 vascular bundle, because vascular bundle is in one of the region. First region is the upper dermis. Imagine it is like the skin of the leaf. Second layer is the palisade mesophyll cell. Third layer is the spongy mesophyll cell. And lastly, the lower layer is the lower dermis layer. So the word dermis, I think I mentioned before in the first chapter on cell, dermis just refers to skin. Because if you are having skin problem, you will see a dermatologist. So it is actually useful to know this term, like dermatologist is for skin, So dermis, right, have to do with skin, but in this case is the so-called skin of the leaf. So skin will be on the surface. Then of course, like I mentioned, there's vascular bundle, which is your xylem and your phloem. First, let us take a look at the upper epidermis. On the surface, we can find a waxy cuticle. This waxy cuticle can also be found on the lower epidermis, and they are waterproof. And the reason for this is it will help to prevent water loss from the leaf. So imagine that there are a lot of water in the cell of the leaf, and this waterproof surface will prevent them from getting evaporated. So this waterproof layer will prevent the water from moving out through osmosis and evaporate from the leaf. These upper epidermis cells, they are closely packed. They may be regular or irregular in shape. They do not contain any chloroplast. This one is important, you must take note. Upper epidermis as well as lower epidermis cell, they do not have any chloroplast because their function is to allow the light to pass through, as they are transparent. They are mostly transparent, so they allow a lot of the light to pass through for the next layer of cell to do its job. The next layer of cell is the mesophyll cell. So the mesophyll cell actually contains two layers, the palisade mesophyll cell as well as the spongy mesophyll cell. The palisade mesophyll cell is at the top, spongy mesophyll is at the bottom. So palisade mesophyll cell, they are more regular in shape, then they have a lot or the most amount of chloroplast. So surprise, they are the main site of photosynthesis since they contain the most chloroplast. Spongy mesophyll cell, they are irregular in shape and have less chloroplast. So it doesn't mean they don't photosynthesize, it's just at a slower rate since there are less chloroplast. So this cell, they are covered with a thin layer of moist on the surface. You will learn the importance of this thin layer of moist in the next chapter in transport of plant. And because they are irregular in shape, there is a lot of intercellular airspace. And this airspace will facilitate gas exchange for oxygen to diffuse out, as well as carbon dioxide that diffuse into the leaf to reach the palisade mesophyll cell, since it is the main site for photosynthesis. For the carbon dioxide to reach the palisade mesophyll cell, they have to pass by the region where most of the spongy mesophyll cells are, because how does carbon dioxide enter the leaf is through the stomata. Stomata for most leaf is found at the bottom. So this airspace, it will make it easier for the carbon dioxide to diffuse directly through the air to the mesophyll cell. In the lower epidermis, it is similar to the upper epidermis. They can be closely packed, regular or irregular in shape. And as mentioned, stomata is found in the lower epidermis of the leaf. These stomata are actually pores or hole that allows carbon dioxide to diffuse in as well as oxygen to diffuse out. The singular is stoma, and each stoma is surrounded by a pair of cells known as the gut cell. An important thing to take note is this gut cell contains chloroplast. So the stoma is the hole, while the gut cell is the cell surrounding the stoma. And the gut cell contains chloroplast. While the rest of the lower epidermis cell, they do not contain chloroplast. This is important. Lastly, it is the vascular bundle. As mentioned, this is more for next chapter because they are responsible for transport, and next chapter is transport in plant. And they consist of two types of tissue. which I have kept on mentioning them. First is the xylem, then is the phloem. How to remember the position, I will talk about it in the next chapter. So this xylem tissue, right, they are actually dead cell. That means they are not living. And they contain lignin, which help to strengthen the xylem vessel, which is why even though the tree is so tall, it is able to stand upright. So xylem will help to transport water as well as mineral salt from the root to the rest of the plant. And the flow is only in one direction. It is one direction from the root to rest of the plant. The phloem, on the other hand, consists of living tissue or living cell. They transport products of photosynthesis, which is your sucrose, from the leaf to other part of the plant. That means it can flow up, maybe to the fruit, as well as flow down to the root. And to summarize what we have gone through, I have this huge table down here with various parts of the plant. Some of the part is more important. For example, the internal structure is more important. Petiole to hold the leaf in place, to reduce blockage of other leaf, not that important. The leaf is thin to allow rapid diffusion of CO2, also not that important. The waxy cuticle to reduce water loss through evaporation, also not that important. Stomata that opens in the day to allow carbon dioxide to diffuse in and oxygen to diffuse out from the leaf, very important. I even have one video dedicated to stomata. Chloroplast with chlorophyll in the mesophyll cell as well as the gut cell will help absorb light and convert them into chemical energy, which is to be used to produce glucose. Important. Most chloroplast is in the upper palisade mesophyll cell. This is because light energy can be absorbed near the leaf surface. Important. Interconnecting system of air space in the spongy mesophyll cell allow rapid diffusion of carbon dioxide, as well as the vein containing xylem and phloem to transport water as well as to transport sugar away. So all of these that got to do with the internal structure of the leaf, I would say is more important. So please copy this down, and if you need to memorize, I would say actually not much lah. I mean, chloroplast contain chlorophyll. Of course, chlorophyll is to absorb sunlight, and palisade mesophyll cell having the most chloroplast kind of makes sense because it's near the surface, so it will absorb the most light. If it's underneath, a lot of the light might be blocked. So this will be all for the function of the leaf.